On the morning of January 15, 1947, a gruesome murder rocked the neighborhood of Leimert Park. It became the famous murder case of Black Dahlia. Elizabeth Short, known posthumously as the Black Dahlia, was an American woman found murdered in the Leimert Park neighborhood of Los Angeles, California, on January 15, 1947. Her case became highly publicized owing to the gruesome nature of the crime, which included the mutilation of her corpse, which was bisected at the waist. A native of Boston, Short spent her early life in New England and Florida before relocating to California, where her father lived. It is commonly held that she was an aspiring actress, though she had no known acting credits or jobs during her time in Los Angeles. She would acquire the nickname of the Black Dahlia posthumously, as newspapers of the period often nicknamed particularly lurid crimes. The term may have originated from a film noir murder mystery, The Blue Dahlia, 1946. After the discovery of her body, the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, began an extensive investigation that produced over 150 suspects but yielded no arrests. Short's unsolved murder and the details surrounding it have had a lasting cultural intrigue, generating various theories and public speculation. Her life and death have been the basis of numerous books and films, and her murder is frequently cited as one of the most famous unsolved murders in U.S. history, as well as one of the oldest unsolved cases in Los Angeles County. It has likewise been credited by historians as one of the first major crimes in post-war America to capture national attention. Prior to murder, on January 9, 1947, Short returned to her home in Los Angeles after a brief trip to San Diego with Robert Red Manley, a 25-year-old married salesman she had been dating. Manley stated that he dropped Short off at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, and that Short was to meet her sister, who was visiting from Boston, that afternoon. By some accounts, staff of the Biltmore recalled having seen Short using the lobby telephone. Shortly after, she was allegedly seen by patrons of the Crown Grill Cocktail Lounge at 754 South Olive Street, approximately 3/8 mile, 600 m, away from the Biltmore. On the morning of January 15, 1947, Short's naked body, severed into two pieces, was found in a vacant lot on the west side of South Norton Avenue, midway between Coliseum Street and West 39th Street in the neighborhood of Leimert Park. At the time, Leimert Park was largely undeveloped. Short's severely mutilated body was completely severed at the waist and drained of blood, leaving her skin a pallid white. Medical examiners determined that she had been dead for around 10 hours prior to the discovery, leaving her time of death either sometime during the evening of January 14 or the early morning hours of January 15. The body had apparently been washed by the killer. Short's face had been slashed from the corners of her mouth to her ears, creating an effect known as the Glasgow smile. She had several cuts on her thigh and breasts, where entire portions of flesh had been sliced away. The lower half of her body was positioned a foot away from the upper, and her intestines had been tucked neatly beneath her buttocks. The corpse had been posed, with her hands over her head, her elbows bent at right angles, and her legs spread apart. Los Angeles Herald-Express reporter Aggie Underwood was among the first to arrive, and took several photos of the corpse and crime scene. Near the body, detectives located a heel print on the ground amid the tire tracks, and a cement sack containing watery blood was also found nearby. Autopsy and identification. An autopsy of Short's body was performed on January 16, 1947, by Frederick Newbar, the Los Angeles County coroner. Newbar's autopsy report stated that Short was 5 feet 5 inches, 1.65 meters, tall, weighed 115 pounds, 52 kilograms, and had light blue eyes, brown hair, and badly decayed teeth. There were ligature marks on her ankles, wrists, and neck, and an irregular laceration with superficial tissue loss on her right breast. Newbar also noted superficial lacerations on the right forearm, left upper arm, and the lower left side of the chest. Short's death certificate. The body had been cut completely in half by a technique taught in the 1930s called a hemicorporectomy. The lower half of her body had been removed by transecting the lumbar spine between the second and third lumbar vertebrae, thus severing the intestine at the duodenum. Newbar's report noted very little ecchymosis, bruising, along the incision line, suggesting it had been performed after death. Another gaping laceration measuring 4 +1/4 inches, 110 millimeters, in length ran longitudinally from the umbilicus to the suprapubic region. The lacerations on each side of the face, which extended from the corners of the lips, were measured at 3 inches, 75 millimeters, on the right side of the face, and 2 +1/2 inches, 65 millimeters, on the left. The skull was not fractured, but there was bruising noted on the front and right side of her scalp, with a small amount of bleeding in the subarachnoid space on the right side, consistent with blows to the head. The cause of death was determined to be hemorrhaging from the lacerations to her face and the shock from blows to the head and face. Newbar noted that Short's anal canal was dilated at 1 +3/4 inches, 45 millimeters, suggesting that she might have been raped. Samples were taken from her body testing for the presence of sperm, but the results came back negative. Short was identified after her fingerprints were sent to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Her fingerprints were on file from her 1943 arrest. Immediately following Short's identification, reporters from William Randolph Hearst's Los Angeles Examiner contacted her mother, Phoebe Short, in Boston, and told her that her daughter had won a beauty contest. It was only after prying as much personal information as they could from Phoebe that the reporters revealed that her daughter had in fact been murdered. The Examiner also offered to pay Phoebe's airfare and accommodations if she would travel to Los Angeles to help with the police investigation. That was yet another ploy, since the newspaper kept her away from police and other reporters to protect its scoop. The Examiner and another Hearst newspaper, the Herald Express, later sensationalized the case, with one Examiner article describing the black tailored suit Short was last seen wearing as a tight skirt and a sheer blouse. The media nicknamed her the Black Dahlia, and described her as an adventuress who prowled Hollywood Boulevard. Additional newspaper reports, such as one published in the Los Angeles Times on January 17, deemed the murder a sex fiend slaying. On January 26, another letter was received by the Examiner, this time handwritten, which read, "Here it is. Turning in Wednesday, January 29, 10 a.m. Had my fun at police. Black Dahlia Avenger." The letter also named a location at which the supposed killer would turn himself in. Police waited at the location on the morning of January 29, but the alleged killer did not appear. Instead, at 1 p.m., the Examiner offices received another cut and pasted letter, which read, "Have changed my mind. You would not give me a square deal.
Los Angeles, California.
Dahlia
January
killing
15,
was justified.
1947.
The graphic nature of the crime and the subsequent letters received by the Examiner had resulted in a media circus surrounding Short's murder. Both local and national publications covered the story heavily, many of which reprinted sensationalistic reports suggesting that Short had been tortured for hours prior to her death. The information, however, was false, yet police allowed the reports to circulate so as to conceal Short's true cause of death, cerebral hemorrhage, from the public. Further reports about her personal life were publicized, including details about her alleged declining of Hanson's sexual advances. Additionally, a stripper who was an acquaintance of Short's told police that she liked to get guys worked up over her, but she'd leave them hanging dry. By the spring of 1947, Short's murder had become a cold case with few new leads. Sergeant Finus Brown, one of the lead detectives on the case, blamed the press for compromising the investigation through journalists' probing of details and unverified reporting. In September 1949, a grand jury convened to discuss inadequacies in the LAPD's homicide unit based on their failure to solve numerous murders. The notoriety of Short's murder has spurred a large number of confessions over the years, many of which have been deemed false. During the initial investigation into her murder, police received a total of 60 confessions, most made by men. Since that time, over 500 people have confessed to the crime, some of whom had not even been born at the time of her death. Sergeant John P. St. John, a detective who worked the case until his retirement, stated, "It is amazing how many people offer up a relative as the killer." In 2003, Ralph Astle, one of the original detectives on the case, told the Times that he believed he had interviewed Short's killer, a man who had been seen with his sedan parked near the vacant lot where her body was discovered in the early morning hours of January 15, 1947. A neighbor driving by that day stopped to dispose of a bag of lawn clippings in the lot when he saw a parked sedan, allegedly with its right rear door open. The driver of the sedan was standing in the lot. His arrival apparently startled the owner of the sedan, who approached his car and peered in the window before returning to the sedan and driving away. The owner of the sedan was followed to a local restaurant where he worked, but was ultimately cleared of suspicion. Suspects remaining under discussion by various authors and experts include a doctor named Walter Bailey, proposed by former Times copy editor Larry Harnish, Times publisher Norman Chandler, whom biographer Donald Wolfe claims impregnated Short, Leslie Dillon, Joseph A. Dumais, Artie Lane, aka Jeff Connors, Mark Hansen, Francis E. Sweeney, Woody Guthrie, Bugsy Siegel, Orson Welles, George Hodel, 91, Hodel's friend Fred Sexton, George Knowlton, 93, Robert M. Red Manley, Patrick S. O'Reilly, and Jack Anderson Wilson. Although he was never formally charged in the crime, Hodel came to wider attention after his death when he was accused by his son, LAPD homicide detective Steve Hodel, of killing Short and committing several additional murders. Prior to the Dahlia case, he was suspected, but not charged, in the death of his secretary, Ruth Spaulding, and was accused of raping his own daughter, Tamar, but acquitted. Hodel fled the country several times, and lived in the Philippines between 1950 and 1990. The investigation revealed that Short's body had been cleaned, posed, and carefully arranged. The case garnered significant media attention, with newspapers covering the gruesome details extensively. Despite reports of leads and confessions, the case remained unsolved. The investigation uncovered more about Short's life and circumstances, such as her previous interactions with men and her purported involvement in Hollywood's nightlife. Various individuals were considered as suspects, with the media sensationalizing their speculations. Over the years, Short's murder has generated numerous false confessions and claims. The case's enduring mystery has led to speculation about the killer's identity, with names like George Hodel and others cropping out, though no definitive resolution has been reached. In summary, Elizabeth Short's murder, known as the Black Dahlia case, has captivated public interest for decades due to its gruesome nature, the mysteries surrounding it, and the colorful characters connected to the investigation. So what do you think? Who murdered the Black Dahlia? Leave your comments below. If you like my videos, don't forget to subscribe to my channel.